Well, good afternoon, and welcome to Morning Gospel Fuel with Mr. G. It's Friday, June 4th, the feast day of Saint Elizabeth Hesselblad, and she's a somewhat modern saint. Um, she was born on this day, June 4th, in 1870, and she was a Swedish nurse who converted to Catholicism and founded the Brigittine Sisters. And what she is most known for is for her heroic efforts through her nursing um, and everything else during World War II, as she helped the Jews from the Nazi regime and stuff like that. So that is what she is known for, and she is the patron saint of Brigittine sisters, nurses, and those who are converts to the Catholic faith. Today's gospel is from Mark chapter 12, verses 35 through 37. Let's begin in the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit. Amen. As Jesus was teaching in the temple area, he said, "How do the scribes claim that the Messiah is the son of David? David himself, inspired by the Holy Spirit, said, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I place your enemies under your feet.' David himself calls him Lord. So how is he his son?" The great crowd heard this with delight. Okay, so Jesus is, saying how he is, like, yes, he's from the King of David, and from that line, that lineage of King David, as Joseph is, but Jesus pretty much puts him in his place, and kind of, and by him I mean the scribes, um, and he's trying to understand what makes David, the prophet, different than Jesus, the Messiah. And he goes back, Jesus does, and says, well, even David himself who was inspired by the Holy Spirit, but even David himself said, the Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand. So David humbled himself, and so now Jesus is trying to make clear of what he truly is, the true Son of God, the Lord in which David was talking about centuries ago, generations ago. And so Jesus is trying to clarify this, and it says how the great crowd heard him with such delight, which is a good thing, because they see what has happened with humanity from David's reign, King David, and how there's still a lot of confusion, and there's a lot of turmoil and questions and doubting and stuff like that. And so they're like, oh boy, here's another one. And so Jesus clarifies that, stating that he is who he says he is. He is truly the Son of God. It is God made man. And so this is a very humbling conversation here. And I think what I'm going to focus on is what is the true definition of humility. Because the normal definition of what we hear it as just in normal society is that humility is when one accentuates himself as, or herself, as low self-regard and kind of like a sense of unworthiness, of stating like you're not as good, like stating that you're not as good as what you really are. So we don't want to, Jesus doesn't really talk about that normal definition. He's speaking, all humility is supposed to speak in the context of the religious definition, and which is the one that Jesus is talking about, which is the recognition of yourself in relation to God, and that subsequent submission to God as a member of his people. So it's really recognize yourself of who you are truly as in the image and likeness of God, and who and what he made and created you to be. And that's the definition of humility. Even though it might sound like boastfulness and arrogance to some, it's actually just being true to who you are and who God made you. And so I think that's the challenge today is as we strive to be humble is who are we as God's children, and what gifts and characteristics do we have, do I have, do you have, that make us who God created us to be. So you can take that to prayer and enjoy that dialogue with the Lord. So have a great Friday. God bless and keep it real. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. And happy 85th birthday to my grandma Grisa.